Welcome to Touchline Talk, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes into the minds of football managers, club leaders, administrators, people in the media, people behind the scenes in the game of soccer. Today we have joining us successful NAIA college coach Steve DeCou. From his time at Huntington University, Trinity Christian College, Belhaven, and Georgia Gwinnett College, Steve has made himself a significant career in the NAIA men's side of soccer. Coach DeCou is a graduate of Tennessee Temple University in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where he played soccer and earned his bachelor's degree in physical education. He holds a master's in sports medicine from the United States Sports Academy. He holds a USSF A license and earned the NSCAA Premier Diploma in January 2014. He has served as the president of the NAIA Men's Soccer Association Executive Committee and is a member of the NAIA Ratings Oversight Committee, NAIA Tournament Selection Committee, and NAIA Tournament Games Committee. In addition to his involvement with NAIA Soccer, DeCou spent 3 summers coaching in the United Soccer League's Premier Development League, known as PDL, serving as an assistant in 2006 and 2007 with the Chicago Fire Premier, and as head coach of Mississippi Brilla FC in 2008. You're going to stick around. You're going to enjoy this conversation with Coach Steve DeCou. Welcome to this episode of Touchline Talk by Soccerspective. I'm your host, Brandon Faust, and today's guest is a very successful college coach who actually I met when he recruited me a very, very long time ago. Didn't end up playing for him, but actually got to play against him once. And we recently reconnected. And that is the current Georgia Gwinnett College NAIA coach of the men's team, Steve DeCou. Steve, it's so good to see you today. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, pal. It's about 65, 70 degrees here in Atlanta. It's not a bad place to be.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't miss Indiana for that.
Oh, baby. You know, we had those teas last week of like 65, 70. This morning, so last night, storms rolled through. In time of recording, we had sleet this morning. We've gone from 65, 68 degrees in 48 hours down to 32 degrees. So definitely a little envious of you enjoying that weather there, Steve. But Steve, we always like in this series right now, we're just doing a nice little icebreaker before we get into your story, your journey of soccer playing days, coaching days, and giving us those insights and wisdom. If you could change one rule in soccer, what would it be? At any level, whether it's to the college game or something else, what's a rule you'd change?
Thought long and hard on this one. Really couldn't come up with anything, and then it hit me. I would do away with throw-ins. I hate throw-ins. Let's make them kick-ins. I mean, we're not allowed to use our hands except for the goalkeepers. And I feel, at least in the youth game and in the college game, there's more turnovers from that. So if we could just put it down and play in with the feet, let's go. That would be the one rule I would change.
I love it. I actually recently interviewed somebody and they said the same thing. We haven't aired that episode yet, but they said the same thing. And I thought it was like, you know what? Absolutely. Like what brilliant idea. Simplify the game. That way it's like, unless you're playing goalkeeper, you're not touching the ball ever with your hands, right? So
Exactly.
Steve, how'd you first get involved with soccer? I know you've been at it. You've been coaching in the college game for a long time now, but how'd you first just get involved in your earliest youth days getting around the game?
I don't have the normal story that you would expect most college coaches to have. So born in Michigan, raised in Michigan, up in the farm country. So the thumb, if you're familiar with that. Dad was a high school football coach. And so we lived 2 hours from Detroit, about 30 minutes from Saginaw, 45 minutes from Flint. There was no youth soccer. Dad sent myself and my siblings to the private Christian school that didn't have football. And so small school, you played whatever sport was in season. So you got to realize I graduated from high school in 1990. In the fall, we played soccer. In the winter was basketball. And in the spring was baseball. I played all sports. It was a small school, so I started on all the teams. But then when Dad got out of coaching, got into the business world. That didn't work out because small town, the big like Walmart moved in and basically killed the downtown. Well, that's kind of our story. Was the business went bankrupt. Dad decided to go back to get his master's. and Dad decided to move the family to Greenville, South Carolina. So I changed schools right before my senior year of high school. Well, this school didn't have baseball, which was probably my better sport growing up.
Hmm.
But everybody played soccer. And so yeah, man, it was, we would get together and just play pickup, for hours, every night, 2 to 3 hours. And that's where I was athletic, and that's where I crafted my game. And then a friend of mine introduced me to Tennessee Temple University in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I went over, introduced myself to the coach, asked for an open tryout. And that's why to this day, when somebody walks in my office and says, Coach, can I try out? I never turn them down, because I've had some unbelievable players come through my door, but also that's how somebody gave me my chance. And so went on and
Hmm.
started there for 4 years, was a two-time all-region player. After college, this is right at about the start of MLS, so it's like 95, 96, 97. I played semi-pro soccer for the Chattanooga Express. Um, Graduated from college in 95, went straight to the U.S. Sports Academy to get my master's. Thought I was going to go into medicine, and so I was actually a athletic trainer. Moved back
Hmm.
to Chattanooga, was working out of a hospital, coaching youth soccer at the time, helping at my old university, and realized I didn't want to be at the bottom of the bench. I wanted to be at the head of the bench. I wanted to be like Dad. I wanted to be a head coach. Was all set to go to Bryan College in Dayton, Tennessee to work for Sandy Zenson. Was going to be working in the training room, teaching some classes, and his assistant. And this was the spring of 2000. They had a fire and their main academic building burned.
Hmm.
And the school had been donated a couple $1 million to athletics to start a couple sports. Well, when the building burned, the donor came in and said, take that money, reallocate it to get the academic piece back in place, and then we'll postpone starting the sports for a year. Well, Sandy calls me and says, we don't have a spot. People in my office knew what was going on, and I walked back in the office one day, and an intern had put something on a desk. There was a school in Huntington, Indiana, looking for a head men's soccer coach, assistant athletic trainer. That's got to be a guy.
And we want to thank our new affiliate partner, Total Football Analysis. Discover in-depth football analysis tactics and scouting reports at Total Football Analysis. Stay ahead with expert insights and data-driven articles. So go to totalfootballanalysis.com, discount code SCS30 to get 30% off any purchase or subscriptions. You can check that referral link as well in the show notes. That's Total Football Analysis, 30% off any purchase or subscription with the discount code SCS30 to get that 30% off.
That's got to be a God thing, because those are like 1 in a billion. And
Mm-hmm.
so this was end of May. They flew me up for an interview. They offered me the job mid-June. I stepped campus on the first time August 1 to start practice. And so from there, I was working in the training room, but it was also a place that they hadn't had a lot of success before I got there. So I was really able to cut my teeth. I was there for 4 years. I was in Chicago for 3 years with Trinity Christian College. There I got in contact with the guys from the Chicago Fire PDL, or what is now USL2.
Mm-hmm.
Was able to get up to I got my A license when I was there. So this whole time I was working on the soccer education piece of it. My daughter was born in 07, and I realized I didn't want her to sound like one of the Blues Brothers. As well as the day we brought her home from the hospital. You're talking about the weather, the wind chill, like around the 1st or 2nd of March was 30 below zero, and I'd had enough. My family was still in South Carolina. My wife, she's from Georgia, just outside Chattanooga. So we left and went to Belhaven College. Was there for 5 years. Thought I was going to be there forever. Um, we were over in Atlanta. Belhaven's playing Southern Poly at the time, like a top 20 NAIA matchup.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, the rumor was there was a school here in Georgia that was going to start athletics, and I was complaining, probing for information with the guy at Southern Poly, saying, "Great, just what I need, another state school." When I'm at a private school, he goes, "That's not the one you got to worry about." He goes, "There's one in Lawrenceville, Georgia. They're going to do it right." Okay. Went home, told the wife, and said, "You want to move to Atlanta?" Because the year before, I'd been a finalist for a D2 job in Tennessee, because my wife's dad had cancer at the time. So we were thinking, can we get back closer to family?
Yeah.
And we didn't get it. And it really, she was torn up about that one. And she's like, yeah, put your stuff in, but don't tell me anything about it. We'll pray about it.
Mm.
Meant to be, we're going. And I said, okay. And so, fall of 2011, um, Georgia Gwinnett was hounding me to come in for an interview. I came in. We'd won our opening round game to go to the NAIA National Tournament, the final site. So in that weekend between, I drove over to Atlanta. I interviewed. Um, I was sitting at the banquet in the final site. They were doing Hall of Fame speeches, and I get a text from the AD from Georgia Gwinnett. He says, "Can we talk?" So of course I didn't want to listen to a speech. Snuck out into the lobby. Uh, and the funny thing is, the guy who got put in, his name is Peter Fuller, legend coach, won a couple national championships at Mobile and at Belhaven. So we had a real close relationship. He's like, "Dude, what are you doing leaving my speech?" So when I went out into the lobby, the AD offered me the job. So after we got bounced in the tournament, I told him, "This is why I'm leaving, because you just saw me coach my last game." And
Mm.
I'm here at Gwinnett now. I just finished my 13th season.
Wow,
Um,
Steve.
we're located in the northeast suburbs of Atlanta. We're an NAIA school, but we're not the prototypical. I mean, we're about 12,000 students. It's a great place to work. We were set up originally for first generation college students. And so we've had a chance that we've really been able to impact lives, not just on the field, but off. And so that's why I love working at this place. And also I built it from scratch. I mean, it's my baby. And so
Mm.
it's been fun to be a part of that. I'll never do it again. It was one of the biggest headaches of, in an entire athletic department. You're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But through all the trials and tribulations, there's been so many good times and I work with great people. And so that's where I am today. Daughter doesn't play soccer. She's a runner, distance runner. So,
Hmm.
which is great about that. Her coach said that the worse athlete you are in that sport, the more playing time you get. So
Mm-hmm.
half an hour, less than half an hour, and we're in and out from a race. Or right now she's running the 1600, the 800, and the 32, and so I love being dad for that. But that's
Oh,
kind of my
I
story, man.
love it. I love it, Steve. And Steve, I mean, what's amazing in your journey, I met you when you were in Illinois and had, a visit there and all that stuff. And you came out and, watched some games and all that stuff, came up to Michigan to hang out. And so it's been fun to reconnect, man. I felt like you were definitely one of those guys in a space, and you and I have talked about this, recently on the phone too. Soccer and sports in general can just be such a transactional thing for some people, right? Just the
Mm-hmm.
win and loss column. And obviously, we're all here to win and compete, but the
Yep.
relationships, that develop through this, that's where it's good. That's when that cross section of where you can get the depth of relationships. Like you said, you've got jerseys of players hanging up on the walls. You're checking in on them over the years. You really build that familial side, and also sharing, suffering over a common goal, right? I mean, Steve, it's been awesome just looking at your career, one, but two, seeing 10 NAIA national tournament appearances since you've been at Georgia Gwinnett. Amazing run, a couple of quarterfinal appearances. Talk to us about, a lot of times, and this was an education for me 20 plus years ago of, having, for me as a player, had some low D1 offers, some D2 offers. And then based on what I was going to study, the kind of environment I wanted to be in, NAIA kind of made sense for me. The difference
Mm-hmm.
between that and NCAA Division III. Talk to me about kind of the spot that NAIA plays within this college soccer hierarchy, and why it's been a good spot for you to kind of settle into and build now a very 20 plus years now, Steve, of coaching at that level.
Mm-hmm. I think what I love about this level is it's for the guy who didn't have the best grades. In your case, Brandon, where you went to school, it fit the academic need. And so that's what some
Yeah.
people want. Some people, the typical NAI is a small liberal arts college. And that's what that kind of guy wants. The other avenue is it was easier to get internationals in. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's been part of it. Like currently, if you have a 2.3 GPA, you're automatically eligible. And so we're able to help guys. We had a player from Germany who barely got in back in the day. I think maybe somewhere around a 2.0, like an 18. He graduated from Georgia Gwinnett, magna cum laude, with a 4.0, was our captain, was an All-American for us. It's not because Georgia Gwinnett was easy. It was because back home, he couldn't really mesh the two worlds of academics and athletics. And he's a driven young man, did exceptionally well for us, now owns his own digital marketing company back in Germany. And so that's one of the examples we say. One of my first ever recruits was born in LA. Mom and dad were Mexican. They did not have their papers, but by him coming to school here, he was able to get his degree, able to start a business, able to sponsor mom and dad, and it's changed the family. It's changing for generations. Little brother went to school, and that's just a couple of the things we've been able to do here. Also with the NAIA, and I'll be honest, sometimes my bosses, yes, we've won, and I've been very successful with what we've done, but that's not what is most important. If you're at a small D1, you're expected to compete with the likes of Indiana or Clemson or UCLA, and you're not given the same resources. And so in my mind, I was like, why am I going to put just to say that I coach at that level, to know that I'm going to get fired in 4 years? I remember reading somewhere, they were talking about coaching, and they said, and using the analogy, I'm talking to an Indiana guy, so everybody will get it. Make your place your Notre Dame. Make it the best where you are. I mean, the grass is always greener where you water it. And so, in my mind, I've been at some institutions that have really supported us, have made it possible for us to have this level of success. So, climbing the ladder is not always what it's cracked up to be. And so, in my age now, I mean, I'm 52. I'm not ashamed to say that, but I'm not going to get a sniff for a D1 job. And some of these D2s or whatever, I'm like, why would I go work there? Because I've got facilities that are off the charts. I've got great people to work with. We're able to recruit great players. I mean, you talked about the jerseys behind me. I do that because those are guys that have made it to the pros from here. And so as I'm on a call with the recruit, whether domestic, international, and they're like, well, coach, why would I come play for you? I was like, well, you see these guys, they made it. You can as well. Because in the soccer world, it's different than basketball or football in that the elite programs from every level can put guys in the pros and can compete with each other.
And we want to say thank you to our affiliate partner, Coursera. Expert-led courses, job-ready certificates, 10,000 plus ways to grow. Get a year of unlimited access, 25% off today. Build in-demand skills, discover new career paths, and earn multiple job-ready certificates through expert-led instructions from leaders at Google, IBM, and more. Also jump in and see what they have going on relative to football and football coaching. There's the courses Football, More Than a Game. There's a Sports Performance Analytics course. Foundations of Sports Analytics, Data Representation and Models in Sports. The Science of Training Young Athletes, and the National Academy of Sports Medicine Nutrition Essentials all have wonderful, relevant courses to what we're doing in the global game of football. So check out Coursera, 25% off, Coursera annual membership. You can catch the link in the show notes.
Little example about that. Valentine's night, we went over, my team went over and scrimmaged Atlanta United's reserves, the twos. 0-0 draw. We had our chances. It wasn't like we were just sitting in praying that. We didn't pull the Simeone, park the bus and just pray that we don't get scored on. We came out and played. Now, yes, we did. We were very organized defensively, but we were able to play with them. And unfortunately, now that I saw the front office was there, so who knows how many of those guys are being targeted. But that's what it's about. And so at this level, anybody can play with anybody. Obviously, we don't have the money that Indiana or Clemson does, but we've got players that are that caliber, but for one reason or another wind up with us.
Yeah, and I think that's even in the two NAI schools that I was at, like we would have players that were we had some internationals, right? We had a guy who was on senior national for Antigua and would leave for like those, regional World Cup, qualifiers and stuff. And it's like, that's a high level player. I mean, that guy can play. Right. Yeah. And so a lot of, teammates, some of them would get, trials at the time with MLS, or some of us played PDL, which I know all about, which is now the equivalent of USL2, from what I understand. And so we would play at the NAIA schools I was at, we'd play like Division I schools from Indiana and give them a game or beat them. And it's like the level's there, right? And so I think there is this misconception at times of what the level is. It's like, no, when people talk about NAIA, I'm like, they're good. A good NAIA program you can put against the low D1 easily. You can put against a D2. Steve, talk to me a little bit for you personally over times in the different environments that you've coached in. How has your coaching or leadership style kind of changed over time? Whether that's pitch side or off the field, what does that kind of look like as you've now put together this 25-year career?
If I'm being brutally honest, I was very transactional. My goal was, when you come out of my background is not, I didn't play in the right schools. I didn't have the right background coming out. So I always had this sense of, I had a chip on my shoulder, and I was going to prove to people that I was a great coach. Now, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, so I had some of this where I knew how I was supposed to treat my guys, but I gave it probably more lip service. I was good to them. I mean, the stories you tell, obviously I made an impact, but deep down at my core, I wanted to be known as a great coach. And so as the years have gone by, especially when I got here to Gwinnett, great little story. 2012 was our first season of competition. Well, when you start a new program from scratch in the NAI, you're on a probationary status for a year. So we weren't able to play in the postseason. Well, I had been part of the NAIA executive committees. So they found out, hey, DeCou, the last 2 years I had a top 10 team at Belhaven. I'd been at the national tournament. Well, he's not able to play this year. He knows how to run the tournaments. I became the director of the tournament committee. I ran the All-American committee. I did all of this. As I sit and watch my team, my former team, Belhaven, go all the way and win a national championship. Oh, you want to talk about putting a chip on your shoulder or giving you an unhealthy purpose? It was to prove to the world, because I had people say, why would you leave Belhaven for this whatever? Now they see everything and they're like, oh, man, you were genius. I can see why you did that. But, I mean, I walked around just shoulders tense, the way I coached, the way I acted, everything I did. It was to prove to people that I didn't make a mistake and that I didn't screw up by leaving there. And then a couple things happened, which I'm not really going to get into because it's still it was painful at the time, but through those scars, I feel like God taught me that you're just a part of the puzzle, and you're here for me to use you to help these guys develop. And it's not about you. And if it's going to be about you, then you're not going to be here anymore. And once I kind of got to that point, I was broken by it. And I realized that it's about the guys. And if I treat the guys right in the right way, and I serve them properly, and I love on them like I should, we're going to win games, but it's going to be more enjoyable. I've heard other people coaches talk about it on podcasts or through this type of stuff. My life, the way I handled life was dictated by the scoreboard. You can't go through life that way. When my wife told me, or I heard her say to my daughter one night after we lost, close game, hard fought game, should have been more proud of the kids for the effort they put in, and we lost like 2-1, and it was an absolute worldie that knocked us out. She's like, well, Daddy's not going to be in the mood to come home tonight, so let's just you and I go get dinner. And they left, and I'm like, well, what am I doing to my family? And so it was a lot of that. It was a lot of soul searching and figuring out who I am. And I think that's the biggest thing a lot of coaches don't do is, get to know who they are. I think the younger generation does this a lot better. I mean, I've had assistants that challenge me on stuff like that. But me, it was all, do it like our coaches did, the old school mentality, do what I say, just because I said so. And so once I kind of came to grips with and figured out who I was as a person, yes, I'm demanding. I can be fiery. I can be feisty. But you yell when you have to, but you better be on the flip side, covering them with positivity, about a 5-1, a 10-2 type ratio, so that the players know you have their best interest at heart. And so once I went through kind of some of that metamorphosis, I'm still demanding. We demanded excellence, but the way I go about it, I just try to have fun. And the other thing is, I think the more success I've had, I'm more comfortable in my old skin. I mean, you can see from the facial hair, I'm not a young pup anymore. And so that I'm getting more mellow with age. which I
Hmm.
think is a good thing, but the fire's still there. And if I need to, I can always pull it out. But it's just more fun to be transformational than transactional.
Man, that is such a good encouragement, and I think so much. There's people like me who have been in and around the game. It may not be our full time career, this or that, and then a lot of our listeners are, they've started their coaching journey or they're full time coaches at a club level, college level, whatever it might be. But I think that's like, why did we get into this to begin with, right? What was, yes, we love the game, but we want to help people. We want to help players get it on the field, off the field. And like you said, that doesn't mean you compromise your desire for excellence, but that identity piece as a coach, and attaching your worth to someone else's performances on a pitch, obviously that we influence, is going to just lead to an up and down life, right? And how do we keep that in proper view while still taking it very seriously? You have had a 25-year career at the NAIA coaching level. This isn't just like some little hobby for you. This is a big part of your life. Steve, talk to me about on this. I know you've seen all sides of it throughout the years. You've interacted with various cultures in regards to this. One of the things that we get asked a lot, especially on the youth development side, are what are those things that are preparing people for the college level? And everybody wants, by the age of 6, they want to know that their kid's on the right college path to be a college soccer player. It's like, relax. Like you talked about, you were a baseball. I was one of the better basketball players in my school, and then I didn't grow. And guess what? I fell more in love with with soccer in high school. So I had played soccer. It was like, I enjoyed it, but I didn't really start taking it seriously probably till I was, 16 years old or something like that. So for you, Steve, what are some of these trends that you're seeing on the youth development side, whether that's, happening in the States or outside of America, that you're seeing some trends of some players and some of the things that they've got that get them on that path to be kind of that next level player?
Well, you and I talked about it. We were multi-sport athletes. That has disappeared. You have to specialize by the time you're 6 years old, or there are people out there who are saying you'll never get a college scholarship. Um, I, for about 5 years, coached, ran an academy here, helped with an academy, a local club team. And when I would meet with the U12 parents, I would be like, if you want this to be the pinnacle of your son's career, I wouldn't have picked any of your kids. I would have gone and picked the biggest, fastest, strongest kids I could have got, and we would just bully teams. I said, but here, my goal for your kids is that someday when they're 18, 19 years old, I will try to recruit them into college. And so that's when we really wanted to focus on technique and skill development. But by the time they're 13, 14, 15, then they need to start heading towards, for us, it was around here, it's the ECNL level, the MLS next, whatever it is. But allow them to experiment, allow them to fail, allow them to try. And then if they set themselves apart and they have the desire, they will get to where they want to be. Hopefully, you never know.
Mm,
Injuries, all that stuff could happen. But I see too many people that are emphasizing winning and trying to play in all these tournaments versus development of the individual. And that's the part I really want to see. I, the clubs that do it right are those that develop their athletes.
mm.
Some clubs go and steal the best players at, you know, U16, 17, 18. Locally, Atlanta United does. But you know what? That's fine. That's their job. They're the pro team. They're supposed to. We develop them. The best players go play for them. And then hopefully they make it as a pro or they come back as, good, very good college players. And so for me, though, it's not about the winning. And I know as a young coach, it's hard to say, and I love
Right,
to win when
right.
I'm out with the guys. But I remember coaching the U12s. You'd have the first 30 minutes of the game, and it would be like, "Have you guys ever even seen the game?
Mhm.
What are we doing, boys?" And then the next 30, you'd have a little talk with them. They'd go out and they look like Barcelona. They're stringing together passes. They're doing everything you said. So it was just like they're kids. Get over it.
Yeah,
Even with the college guys,
yeah.
18 to 25-year-olds. There's times I'm like, "What are we thinking?" Um, but you just have to understand who you're working with and the psychology of everything. And
Hmm.
just at my level, it's all about winning. But there has to be development to get them to where we need to be. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, we are judged upon our wins loss record. These
Yep.
club programs. I mean, I coached an U19 ECNL team this year, and Never once did anybody come to me and say, it's about, you got to win, Steve, or you're not going to have your job. It's about, how are we helping these guys develop, and how can we be better at what we're doing?
It's good. That's good. That's a good word, man, on that, because I think there is everybody, of course, if you're playing a sport, of course you want to win. But if you're not seeing, there's a way to stack a team, to your point, where you're just getting all the biggest, fastest people out there and saying, if all this rides on one moment, here's what we've got to do. And it's like, what about that technical player who's 13 years old that in 3 years is going to be 6'3" and is going to be the most technically gifted player out there, right? Like, let's prioritize that technical ability coming along. Steve,
Yep.
what advice would you give? And you've touched on some principles and you've pulled some of these things out. And I know you and I have talked about these before in some respects, but so somebody who's kind of getting that itch to get into the coaching game, maybe they did play, in college, or maybe high level club, or just have a passion for the game, want to get involved, whether it's their kids rec team, or a younger travel team, or want to step in. Hey, how do I get involved with college coaching? What advice would you give these people as they're thinking about entering into this world of coaching in the greatest game in the world?
As a young coach, I mean, unless you've played with the national team or played with an MLS club, you are probably not going to walk in with the clout that you're going to be able to demand a high level team. Everybody wants instant gratification. I want to coach the top ECNL team. I want to work with the very best players. No, as a young coach, you've got to be willing to come in and do the grunt work and earn your stripes, so to speak. When I was in Chicago, um, our women's coach was working with a W League team, and he said, "Hey, you want to come out and help?" And I was like, my wife was at work. My son, we had no, my daughter wasn't born yet. My days were free in the summer. I'm like, yeah, I'll come out and help just to learn. And that's what that's one of the other, I'll get to that in this point. But because of that contact, I then got put in touch with the guys with the Chicago Fire PDL team, and I did that for 2 summers. And so you have to be willing to get yourself out there, because then you make connections, and then you can push yourself up the ranks. For me to get into college, God thing. How did I go from being a club coach, a U14 coach, to the head coach in a college program? The only thing I can say is it was divine intervention, because that's where I was meant
Mm.
to be. But how did I get that other job offer? Well, I had played against the head coach. He and I were coaching in the same club. I had mentioned that I would like to get into coaching. And he said, "Hey, I've got this low level position. Would you be interested?" Yes, I took it. With the PDL, "Hey, we got this opportunity. Would you be interested?" Yes, I didn't get paid a thing. It cost me money, because this was the days before unlimited wireless plans, and the the head coach and the GM did not get along. So I was the middleman. "Hey, tell him that we need to do this." "No, hey, you tell him we're doing this." And finally, I had to bring both together. I said, "Guys, listen, you're going to give me some extra money, because I ran out of minutes within like 2 weeks of the new month because of you two. Can't have this happen again." But I was willing to do the grunt work, and then I was also a sponge. That's what I tell other people, young
Mm.
people, whether it's in the athletic department, young coaches. You just got to learn. I mean, now you can pick everything up online, YouTube, all that. You can just find out the best practices. For me, it was, I was reading every book I could. I was going to all the coaching symposiums. I got my coaching licenses. If I saw something in a book, I would write to coaches and ask for, like, how did they do it? The
Mm.
old NSCAA had, it was called the Soccer Coaches Bible, and
Yeah.
there was a section in there from Jay Martin from Ohio Wesleyan about his team handbook. And I was like, "Coach Martin, I'm a young coach. I'm in like second year at Huntington. I'm second year in this. Can you help? Can you tell me more about it?" I get a package back from him. It was like, "Not only can I help you, here's what we did. Use it how you want." Um, when we were in Bellhaven, I read a book by Jim Tressel. Um, and I said, "Coach," and I loved it. And being a Michigan fan from Ohio State guy, that was hard to do. But
Yes, I feel that.
a handwritten letter I sent him, I
Mm.
got a response, and then a big packet of information of what they were doing. So be willing to, write a letter. I mean, nobody gets those anymore. And these guys helped me get a better understanding. The
Mm.
coaches I got to work with in the PDL Mike, no, Makovich, drew a blank there for a second. It's my old age. Uh, he was the head coach, or the director of the old Chicago Magic. Went on and coached with MLS teams. Had coached with the national program with national teams. He left. I think he went to Toronto that year, and then a guy by the name of Larry Sunderland came in. Larry's now the academy director at FC Cincinnati. I got to work with these really high profile coaches and learn how to do things, and maybe not how to do things. Both of them were elite level coaches. So I was a sponge with that.
Mm.
Um, and so those are the opportunities. You got to put yourself out there, be willing to do the grunt work, be a sponge, and just be a continual learner. I mean, love to read. There's different things where I take stuff from, and that's what I would say to a young coach is you're not going to step right in and have my job.
Mhm.
You got to
Yeah.
work your way up to put yourself in this type of position. A
Yeah.
friend of ours um, was an NAIA player, was an NAIA assistant, became a Division II head coach, did exceptionally well. Just got hired in his early 30s as a Division I coach in this area because he's a hard worker. He was a sponge. He asked for the right questions to the right people. And then eventually in time, you have to be patient. He developed into this person, into this coach that this Division I team wanted him. And so you can
Mm.
do that. For
That's
some of us,
awesome.
it's, for me, it was just to get to this job. And um, I don't see myself leaving. And that's not to say if something better comes along that it's a no brainer, then I will. But as of right now, it's just that would be my advice to a young coach is just be patient, man.
Mm. It's good. Steve, this has been so good. I'm loving this. I'm even learning more stuff about you, which I love as we go in this. Give me just one of those moments for you that's been kind of unforgettable, just a fun, inspiring moment that just kind of summarizes your career where you're like, yes, this is why we do it.
Um, it was on the field. It was 2017. We had been, let's see, I got to do the math 13, 14, 16. It was our fourth trip to the opening round of the national tournament. And we needed to make that jump. And we played Southern Oregon University at our place. One game, winner goes to the national tournament. And it was just like this. It's our time. We've got to do this, but you never know. And game, we wind up winning 3-2, score the winner in the last 10 minutes of the game. And that was the moment when we knew we got to the final site. It was just so big for the program and the guys.
Mm.
If you go to 2022, we scored. Well, that 17 team went to the Elite Eight. The 2022 team were playing Columbia College at our place, and we scored with 2 seconds left in double overtime. One of the craziest finishes ever. I think you can find that online. Um, but just the fight. And I mean, that was that group. That was a group that we had what, 11 fifth-year seniors on that team because of COVID. What a great group. So those are the things on the field. Off the field, the fun part was, I think it was 2018. I was down recruiting in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Um, and we got tickets to a Boca Juniors match. So I went to La Bombonera,
Mm.
came walking up. We got a VIP package because I'd been told, buddy of mine said he'd been there twice and had been mugged twice trying to walk to the
Mhm.
stadium. So we bought a VIP package. It drove us right to the front gate. We didn't have to deal with that. But we had some food, kind of hung out in the VIP area for a little bit, and then this hostess took us to our seats, which it wasn't like you're thinking we're in a box. No, we're right in the middle of it all. And we come walking out and you see the whole stadium unfold. And you're like, how the heck did some guy from Michigan wind up in this environment? And it was just like,
Mm.
that was awesome. And I've had a couple more experiences, different like European games I've gone to, but that was the one you're just like, oh, I am so out of my element. This is
Yeah.
great. And by the end, when we walk in, they're kind of looking at us like, who are these guys? And by the end, there were a couple Argentines with us, they kind of told everybody what we were. I mean, uh, Boca wins, I think it was 4-0 on the night, and they're hugging us, celebrating. I mean, it was just to be part of that, how soccer transcends cultures, languages, and
Mm.
what a fun night that was.
Mm. That's awesome. That is awesome. And what what a venue. If you haven't seen what a match like there is, Boca Junior, it is, oh man, it is life for them, right? And it's
Yes.
what a rowdy, beautiful environment. All right, I've got a couple questions to finish our time together. These are for
All right.
fun here. Steve, if you could have dinner with three football figures, past or present, who would they be and why?
All right. Just so those know, I got sent the questions early and I thought about this. I'm cheating. I'm going four.
Bring it.
Ferguson, Klopp, Mourinho, Ancelotti. Just to pick the brains of, I see myself more as an Ancelotti in the way that calm, cool on the sidelines. I'm pragmatic like Mourinho in that I'll do whatever I need to, but the fire of Klopp and just he looks like he would be fun to have at dinner. And then being a lifelong Manchester United fan, I mean, to sit with Ferguson and just pick that brain would be awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Steve, and I think that dinner would be lively. I mean, those guys have had some,
Woo.
they've had some wars amongst each
Yeah.
other, but even just like you said, the stylistic, I feel like Ancelotti is definitely one of those managers. I mean, he's seen through a few different phases and generations of soccer. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like he's really seen it, coached the best of the best, and then always
Mhm.
finds a way to let them thrive, right? Doesn't prescribe a
Yeah.
full system to them, right? Like really comes around them what they need. And then, like you said, the energy of Klopp, the success of Sir Alex, and kind of this is how we're doing it. And then Mourinho, kind of pragmatic sort of way that's often not the most beautiful soccer for some, but it gets the job done often.
Yep.
Steve, what's a resource for you as a coach that you just can't go without? I mean, I know you've talked about the value of courses and mentors and asking questions, reading things, but what's kind of like a practical day in, day out sort of resource for you as a coach that you would recommend people get their hands on something like?
See, in our world, with the college game, it's now turning in, the video editing. So it's been, the Y Scouts of the world, which was in Stat, which I'm actually going with a new company called Sota, SOTA. But it's been more the film. Highly recommend get yourself a VO camera so you can film things. Um, I don't really have an app or for practices. I've done enough that I'm constantly just scouring. I've got the sites on social media that I look at just to see what's new or how can I tweak what I do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I go that route. Um, but that's why I hire young assistants who can set up more of the technical side of things, who are better with their dealing with the technology of today. That's not
Yeah.
my cup of tea. I'd like to think of myself more as the you know captain of the ship, chart the course, and then let the young bucks who know what they're doing put it together. And so that's kind of where I am with that.
Love that. Love that. Well, this conversation, one for me personally, it's just been so good just to reconnect with you in recent weeks, Coach, and I love just the success you're having down there. And I'm really, I want to see. I'm going to be keeping my tabs on you and hoping for that national championship to break through. I mean, really, you've been somebody that's been so good for the game, a good advocate for the game, and I've really loved how you talked through this more transformational side and what you're trying to accomplish there beyond just the wins and losses, which are great too, but the relationships and how you're pouring into these young people's lives. Last question. If you could manage or play for any team in history, who would it be and why? I think I have an idea, but I want to hear this.
Oh, it's very obvious. I would want to play in the Champions League final in '99 for United. I
Yeah.
always wanted to be Roy Keane when I played. I love that
Mhm.
guy. The fire, the passion, but just to play with those guys and to go through, winning the treble, everything that they did from, the FA Cup, beating Newcastle to beating Tottenham on the last day to actually getting played off the park for about 80 plus minutes in Barcelona that night against Munich. But to come back and win, I mean, it's not a good time to be a United fan right now, but I love Amarim. I love how he's just stubborn and set in his ways, but I think in a good way. And I think the club's going to back him to the point that they realize there's been too many mistakes made, and just chopping and changing the manager isn't the answer. So, but to answer your question, 99, baby, let's go.
I love it. I love it. And Steve, last thing here, at this time of year, kind of springtime, what do things look like for an NAIA college coach this time of year as you head into the spring, summer's coming
Mhm.
up, and then obviously the season really gets going in the fall. What does that cadence look like for you personally right now?
Actually, on Thursdays, we're filming this on a Thursday. It's a complete day off for the guys. So we'll train 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. They're in the weight room Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Um, Next month, we'll have a couple scrimmages. We talked about the one we had in February. We're allowed 3 dates. And so we'll do that. We're currently finishing recruiting. Um, I My assistant left me in January. He got his first head coaching job. So the guy we talked about who went from NAIA to D2 to D1 is a friend of ours. Well, my assistant left me and took over his D2 job. So great
Gotcha.
young, well, not young anymore, but great coach. He's ready.
Mm,
So I've been in the process of hiring an assistant. So currently, as we speak, I'm just a one-man band.
okay.
The offer has been made. It's been accepted. My next assistant is going through the HR process, dealing with all of that. So hopefully have him on board soon, and I'd love to have him here like that first week of April. So I've been dealing with that. Schedules are already set. We're starting to deal with like the logistics for next year. Um, and then, in May, my daughter graduates from high school. We're going to go on a senior trip with her. I think so. She wants to go out west and go hiking. So we're kind of working through that. So it's get everything ready so that I can, shut it down for a week or two.